Hello and welcome back. So we are now on week 29 in the Lucy Letby trial. A lot happened in court, even though they only sat for 2 days this week. A lot was going on, so plenty to discuss. Now, Letby is being cross-examined. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the defence have called her as a witness and she has given her evidence in chief. And then the prosecution are now cross-examining her. So they are trying to dispute what she's saying. So on Wednesday, Letby mentioned that raw sewage was coming out of the sinks in one of the wards and that staff couldn't wash their hands properly. So that's interesting, gives us an insight into the state of perhaps the hospital and hygiene. And under cross-examination, she talked about child E, and they said that child E started bleeding at 9, and Letby said, well, no, this didn't happen before 10 p.m. The prosecution, Casey, said, well, you're lying. You phoned the mother about the blood at 9:11 p.m. and she said, well, I did make a call, but it wasn't for that reason. It wasn't to tell her about the bleeding. The doctor was called at 10 p.m, so that was written down on some notes. Child E's mother is saying that she saw the blood at 9 p.m. Letby was asked if she reported the sewage, and she said that she hadn't. She also talked about child G and said that child G could have vomited if a nurse had mismeasured a feed, and obviously I guess because their stomachs are so tiny, that would have caused child G to vomit. Now on Thursday they talked about child H and child I. Under cross-examination, the KC said, well, you falsified notes for child H. You made it appear as if she was unwell before the collapse. So this is the attempted murder charge. Letby denied doing this. Letby also said the insertion of chest drains may have caused issues. So, and there was a lack of experienced doctors to insert the chest drains. And she did actually text one of her colleagues to say how unsafe she thought the unit was. She denied moving child H's tube, and she wrote that the SHO, the senior house officer, attended, and that was on her notes. Now the KC said, well, nobody was there, were they, Letby, because you didn't put a name down. And she said, well, we don't always put the names of the doctors down. Sometimes we do abbreviate it and put SHO. And one of the timings was incorrect, and Letby said, well, that was just a mistake as to when somebody attended. The next day that after child H had been unwell, Letby texted one of her colleagues and said that H was stable and had had a good day. She was not the designated nurse for child H on a later shift, but did help out. And they brought up the fact that there were a couple of Facebook likes on one a random photo and one of her friend's photos. And she said, well, that must have been done during a break. They then talked about child A. Letby had raised concerns, which is interesting, that child I was not getting the treatment that she needed. She said she knew the family of child I well, and was concerned about the quality of the treatment. Again, the KC brought up the fact that Letby had cooked the books to make it look like child I was unwell before child I was actually unwell. The senior doctor came at 3 p.m, but Letby had said that the doctor had come before for a crash call, but there was no mention of that in the doctor's notes. And the KC alleged that she pumped child I full of air and milk, which Letby denied. Letby also brought up the fact that the colleague had stopped monitoring child I and that they lacked experience. She was asked whether she thought that contributed to the death, and she said no, that staff levels and incompetence did not contribute to the death. And the KC said to her, yet again, when a child collapses, you are the person there. And Letby replied, I don't agree. Child I was under a kind of tent-like thing in the ward where you could see their face and hands. And Letby said child I looked pale when she stood there at the doorway. And there was a bit of a dispute about, well, could she have seen she looked pale? And, the KC said, well, you can't see that far. And Letby said, I know what I'm looking for. and you can see the face and the hands. And the Casey said, well, what do you mean you know what you're looking for? And Letby was silent, and she didn't actually answer that question. And she said, well, I'm finding it hard to concentrate on all these dates. I mean, remember, these things happened between 2015 and 2016, so that's a long time ago. The judge then intervened and said, well, all this questioning, it's been a very long day for the defendant, and it is having an impact on her. Whether she's innocent, whether she's guilty, just being questioned and questioned for hours upon end is going to be mentally exhausting. So they finished court a little bit early on Thursday, and the trial was adjourned until Tuesday, because we have a bank holiday. So let me know your thoughts. I am holding the comments just for review, because obviously this is an ongoing trial, and we don't want to say anything that could be held to be in contempt of court. And obviously under Article 6, everybody has the right to a fair trial. So please comment respectfully, and I look forward to hearing.